Right, so let's get this out of the way before we start. This is not a which one is better, iRacing or ACC. Get over yourselves, sim racers, you're the worst. So the USA DLC pack has dropped for Set of Course Competizione. We've got Circuit of the Americas, Watkins, Glen, Indianapolis Road. They're all in iRacing. Let's have a look at both of them and see which scans are similar and which scans are very different. So the first one here, turn 1, we've got a cone and an orange blobby directional thing. On the right here on the exit we've got the anti-track cut sausage curbs. So we're going to go through all these circuits, first on ACC, then on iRacing. Some of the scans are the same, some are massively different, some are similar. Circuit of the Americas, just in case you've forgotten where you're racing, we come to this corner, we've got a directional orange guide curb. Coming across to the right, we've got another directional orange guide curb. Over to the left, we've got another directional orange guide curb. On the right here, another directional orange guide curb. This tells you the line you should be taking. Assetto Corsa Competizione gantry, in case you've forgotten what game you're playing. Over to the left here, we have a cone and an orange guide curb. Red and yellow striped curbing for the most part around here. Ignore all the off-track stuff like the crowds, the grandstands. Another guide curb on the left with a cone. No point putting cones there, seriously. They'll just be taken out by the first person through. But all the, don't forget, these are both on PC, and PC settings for various games will vary. On iRacing, I've all my crowds turned off. There's no point. It's just waste of graphics. Over on the left, we're going to come round on the hairpin. Again, there's another cone and a directional orange sausage. Bit steeper that one. On the right, as you track out, we've got the anti-cut sausages. Coming down the big long straight. Lots of detail either side. Again, another ACC banner in case you've forgotten what you're playing. Red and white curbing off to the right. Big runoff with the grasscrete, or the AstroTurf, whatever the hell it is. Big star in front of us on the ground. Coming around to the left, got another orange guide curb. No cone this time. Probably ran out by the time they got to this part of the circuit. Anti-cut sausages on the right. Pulling over to the left before we sweep around to the right again. There should be an elongated orange curb here. Yes, there is. Again, just to guide you in. No curbing for the next little bit. Just the red and white track borders. These curbs are all flat, by the way, which is why they've got these. And this one, little orange guide curb, tells you which way you're supposed to be going. More anti-cut sausages on the right. Sweeping over to the left. Circuit of the Americas, again, in case you forgot since turn 1 where you were. The triple corner. All flat. No guide curbs here. Coming around to the right, we've got corner markers off to the right. 100, then 50. A little bit of painting on the Armco as well. We've got a guide curb here, elongated sausage. Nothing on the right for track cut, just the red and white curbing. Got the pit lane entrance coming up on the left. We'll have a little look at that. There it is. Turning in for the last corner. Again, orange guide curbing. Again, no cone. More anti-track cut on the right before we come down the final start-finish straight. So this scan is very, very similar to iRacing. So there's a few tiny differences which we'll go over right now. So, out the pit lane on iRacing. So as we get to the first turn, no cone. And we've got a, well, I suppose that's orange guide sausage. We've got no anti-cut sausages on the right, so you can swing out there. Now don't forget, they're not running the same rules. iRacing, the GT3s are based off of mainly IMSA, and ACC, the GT3s are the GT World Championship. Here's a guide cone, orange, that's the same, still red and white curbing. So they're not operating on quite the same rules for both, so you may see slight differences. But on this track scan, I say for the most part, you've still got the same orange guide cones on each corner. Circuit the Americas, in case you forget where you are. Most of the time, this track is identical in iRacing. It's not an old track. First used, I think, was it 2012 for Formula 1? No cone on the left, but we've still got these guide curbs. Just to let you know, very similar to Laguna Seca, just to let you know, as long as you're going along perpendicular to those curbs, you're on pretty much a decent line. So coming down to the tight hairpin. Circuit the Americas, is it? Oh, totally forgotten. So again, no cone on the left, but we do have another little orange guide curb, and as we track out to the right, there is again no anti-cut sausages. So ACC pretty much has cones around half the track and anti-cut sausages on most of the exits. And apart from that, the actual scan of the track is identical. Both games use laser scan tracks. There's no Codemasters F1 draw the track by hand nonsense. These are all laser scanned. So coming down, haven't got a big blue star in front of us this time. Again, ignore most of the off the track stuff. It's not important. But we have no real guide marker there, just a slightly raised hump. No anti-track cutting sausages on the right. There is, I think, yep, there it is, guiding curb on the right there. So that's the same as ACC, nothing here for the next few corners. Should be on the tight left-hander. If it's the same as ACC, there should be a guiding curb. And there isn't. And again, no anti-cut on the right. Coming round for the triple corner, this was all just flat curbing on ACC, and it's the same here. Of the three tracks, I'm not really a fan of Circuit the Americas. It's great for high downforce cars like Formula 1, Indy, stuff like that, but for GT3s and lower downforce cars, it's not that great, in my opinion. On the left, another little guide curb, slightly elongated sausage. Over to the right, still no anti-track cuts there. There wasn't on ACC, there aren't there. We'll have a little look on the pit lane on the left as we go past, exactly the same. Coming around last corner again, guide sausage. No anti-cut on the right. So, pretty almost identical, just a few cones and anti-cut sausages on the exits. But apart from that, and obviously the infield stuff and a few advertising, it's the same. Should be. It's not an old scan. Right, moving on then to Watkins Glen. This is everybody's favourite of the three, including mine. This is a really recent scan for both, so should be identical. If there's any differences, again, it's purely down to rules in place by various series that are unique to them. So very wide red and yellow curbing on all the edges of the track. This is the real sort of distinguishing feature of the newest scan, is you've got this ketchup and mustard coloured curbing everywhere. And this is a very recent scan for both, so it should be, apart from the infield stuff, all the crowds and things and all the camp vans you can see here, ignore those. The actual track, it's going to be, should be in theory, identical for both of these. We'll have a look at a few on-track markers as well to see if they're in the right place. So coming across to the right here, there's going to be some cutaways and inlaid triangular concrete for the curb. You can see one here on the left, just to help guide you, and then one here on the left again, just to try and encourage you to take more of a straight line and to ease your passage over those pretty flat, wide curbs. So coming round to the right, past the Marshal's hut, we're going to start to track out to the left. We're sort of following the racing line fairly slowly, because these are the things you will notice. Again, a bit of concrete to ease you back on after the bumps run out. On the right, there's a drain cover. There it is. That's pretty much your braking point to bring you down for this corner. The chute. Again, lots of ketchup and mustard coloured curbing. We come out to the right. It's all pretty standard. Corner marking boards. We've got a big patch of resurface on the left, mid-corner. It's a good guideline to when you're nearly halfway through the corner, so if you want to change down the gear at speed, that's a good time to do it. Again, we've got a bit of slight run outside the white line on the left coming out of that corner. Marshal's hut. Distance boards. Coming around to the right, then on the left it's all asphalt, the runoff. The idea actually is to run off if you can. You can go quite wide here. Bring yourself back on. Should be some discoloration on the right to let you know where your braking is. There it is, it's concrete here, okay. So coming back over to the left. As you track out to the right, there's a small bit of grass after the curb. Go on that and you're in trouble. There's a concrete going outside the white track line here for you to use, just to get more of an angle for the left turn here. And again, tracking out to the right, you've got a big expanse of concrete. You can't use all of it. In ACC, the track limits are different between the two games. Not massively, but they are different. Coming around on the right here, look on the pit lane. On the ground, we've got some markers. 3, 2, and on the right 1, there's a go bowling sign. It tells you about your distance to pit lane, speed limit. And as we're coming down here, a couple of different start position markers on the left. And turn 1, which is one of the most critical turns in the whole circuit. It's going to be, should be, dual level curb on the right, and you track out to the left onto very wide red and yellow curbing. So yeah, you can see it here, dual level, higher on the inside than it is on the outside, and as we track out to the left, get a similar sort of thing, very wide curbing. So again, concrete all to the left, no grass, can't use all of it. The white line changes from the right side of the curb to the left side of the curb here. Let's have a look at iRacing. So again, it's a very new scan. Assetto Corsa Competizione dropped a few days ago. This has dropped within the last 12 months, and it is the latest scan, so it should in theory be the same one that ACC is using. So again, wide, ketchup and mustard coloured curbs all the way round, nice and flat. Again, no need to make comparisons with the stuff either side of the track, because iRacing, I turn everything off. It doesn't bother me, don't need it to be rendered. But so far so good, it all looks pretty identical. And I'm expecting it to be identical, because both scans are so recent. So again, we've got the Marshal's hut, come over to the right, we've got the flat, very wide curbing. On the left, we should have those concrete indents. There's one. And there's the second one, just to help guide you back onto the curbs to get you through the bus stop chicane or the inner loop. Nice and easily. Coming around to the outer loop. Past the Marshal's hut, starting to track out to the left. Should be a little bit of concrete runoff after the curb stops. There it is. Help you get back on track. On the right, we're looking for the drain cover. There it is. Everything's in place so far. Coming round. I think one of the the reasons why Watkins Glen is so popular is the fact the curbs are not brutal. On ACC you can find the curbs can be lethal for some cars, but here they're not. Different sponsors for the corner markers here. There's the resurfaced bit of road on the left just before midpoint corner. On the left, bit of concrete outside the white line. Coming down to the distance boards for the next right-hander. And turning in, so the track extends all the way past the curb on the left. You can come out here, it's not a problem. Cut back in. Aiming for the discoloration on the right. There it is, it is concrete here as well. Cutting back to the left. On the right you have the curbs, and then it ends into a bit of grass which gets people into trouble just there. Then we have again a little bit of concrete extending out to the right of the track limit line here to give you a bit more of an angle to attack this corner. And as you track out, again we've got a nice wide curb here. You can come and use all of this and more. So again, we're looking for those little track markers, the pit lane distance markers on the right as we come round. Here we go. There's 3. There's 2. There's 1. There's go bowling. So yes, everything so far, we've got the last quarter, the first corner to go, but everything as far as track detail goes is exactly the same between Watkins Glen and between iRacing and ACC. But again, it should be. They're both very, very recent scans, less than a year old, so they'll be using exactly the same data. So here, double curbing on the right, yep, higher on the inside than it is on the outside, and on the left we've got the wide curbing, and here the white line again stops on the right, changes to the left. So exactly the same. iRacing, ACC, Watkins Glen, identical. That leads us on to Indy. So the first thing to look here is on the left, the pit exit. Look at all these yellow orangey barriers to stop you merging. The pit exit here is a different pit exit to iRacing. iRacing scan is a lot older than ACC's, so you're going to see quite a few differences on this track. This is the track with the most differences. So here you merge after the corner on ACC. So we've got blue and white graduated curbing, flat. Not a massive fan of Indianapolis road course. The infield is just a bit dull. It's actually a lot like someone took Zolder, half the Zolder track, and just chucked it inside an oval. It's just a little loop and then a few left-right turns. There's nothing really special about it. It's not as thrilling as driving Daytona, for example. So coming out to the left here again, blue and white curbing. Nothing raised, quite a tight turn here. Now, this is one of the big major differences between the two. As we come to the right here, tracking out on the left, you can use the whole width of this past this white line, and ACC expects you to do so. iRacing, it doesn't do that, and we'll see that in a moment. And this is where the track has another major change on the next left corner. It has a different corner to the Indy road on iRacing. This one is 90 degrees, really sharp. In fact, you'll see the iRacing corner first, where the cones are, so it's a much easier turn into the left. The ACC one, you have to go a little bit further, and it's a very sharp left and a raised sausage curb, so quite brutal. Also some differences on the curbs here. This is where the iRacing line comes through. The curb on the right is actually going to be wider at the apex than it is for the rest, to encourage you to cut as much of it as you can. And the same on the left here. It goes narrow, then there's a big wide bit here, and then it goes narrow again. And it allows you to take a much straighter line and basically cut both corners. We're coming around to the right before we rejoin the oval. But here, we're not going to follow the oval round back to the start-finish. We're going to have one more right-left infield section. If you're used to driving the Indy road course on iRacing, this is really the bit you've got to learn and get right. The rest of the course is fine, even with that different corner we had a couple of corners ago. But here, you can see the corner markings. We've got very brutal curb on the right. We've got to turn in here. And also the pit entry is obviously different than it is in iRacing, but luckily, look in front of you, there is a sign for the people who get confused. Pit entry is here on the right, so you go in there. But to stay on the course here, we continue along. We make one final right turn. You can see it, the banking's on the left. There's the pit entry. The banking's on the left, and we just keep going. And really, most drivers are cutting this little bit of concrete on the left, that little triangle. So then we thunder down, start, finish straight. We get to the marshal's gantry, over the bricks. A little bump in the force feedback as you go over the bricks. So this road course is slightly different to iRacing. iRacing scan is a lot older though, and there's the barriers on the right to protect the cars coming out of the pits. Stop them from coming out too soon, stop people from turning into them. Very similar to the endurance exit at Spa. And we turn in here again, raised curbs, blue and white, and this is where we merge. So iRacing, no protection on the left. Pit exit is here, and you merge back into the traffic before turn 1. So you've really got to look at your mirrors. So we come left here of the curbing. If you go right and follow the ACC line, you'll get a course cut and a slowdown. So you come right here. These are what appears to be faded black and white, very muddy white, sometimes brown, but black and white curbing, but still flat. But this part of the track is identical. Coming out to the left, turning back into the right, clipping the corner, straightening up to go out to the left, setting yourself up for the right hander here, and then we're going to have the tiny little loop. So everything here with ACC is exactly the same. Coming close to the inside, but now the next right hander is where you'll see one of the main differences. So here you have to cut the corner and stay tight. You can't track out too far. ACC wanted you to go all the way left. Here you've got that DRS sign. You need to be on the right of that, otherwise again you're going to get a slowdown. So the track limits for here is that white line on the left. So we come down here, less busy off the track here. You can see it's big open space. And again, this is an easier corner than the ACC one. It's a much more relaxed corner. We turn in. ACC had an extra bit forcing you to do a 90-degree turn, but this one is a lot narrower, a lot easier to navigate. And the curbing here is equal all the way around. There's no big fat bits to encourage you to go straight across it on the right or on this left one here, which makes it a much tighter turn. You don't want to bounce from the curb to the grass to the curb to the tarmac. Coming around to the right here, you can cut this quite a lot. And from here, it's a straight run. Back onto the oval and back to the start-finish line. So it also means there's a different pit entry. And the pit entry is basically where we had the turn to go back right on Assetto Corsa Competizione. So you can see the cones on the right. Now I'll talk about this part of the track on iRacing in a second. That's where everybody's going there from ACC. But the pit lane for iRacing is on the right. You follow that road. You've got to hit the brakes quite hard as soon as you get to the next set of cones, because the speed limit sign is right upon you. So that's the pit entry for iRacing there. Again, we're just going down the main straight to turn 1. Over the bricks by the gantry. And again, no protection from those. There's a big gap between the end of pit lane and the pit wall on the right here. You see it's completely unprotected. It's about 50, 60, maybe 100 yards, and then you get entry back onto the track. And from here, we're breaking down, traffic merging from the right, but we're both merging into the same corner. So, very different. Or is it? So this, on iRacing, is the Indianapolis Road Course motorcycle. And you come here, but now you actually have this right turn. So very similar to ACC with this right turn, but this is more of a chicane. So it turns all the way to the right and then to the left. So this is not evident to be in place on ACC. There's the pit entry, but in this case it's the pit exit, because the motorcycle course on iRacing actually runs anti-clockwise the same way as the oval course runs. So I'm actually driving this in reverse, but just showing you the similarities between the motorcycle course on iRacing and the main road course for ACC. So CoTA, a few tiny changes, nothing major. Watkins Glen, virtually no changes at all. And Indianapolis road course is the one that has the most changes. So there it is. Let us know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you for the next one.